everybody. Welcome back to the Sacred Femme Alchemy podcast. It's been a hot minute since I recorded video. So you're getting this. I don't know. I was recording an EFT video and I decided to why don't I just keep on the train with recording and doing videos? And it took forever because I was trying to get my partner out of the house. And like for me, I actually start my workday really, really late. Although I do have a early morning sadhana practice, which sometimes take me to like an hour, hour and a half. And then it involves journaling, and then it's like 2 hours. Yeah. And then I get ready, then I cook breakfast. And by the time I'm like ready to sit down and do work, it's 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. And so people think they're like, oh my gosh, you start like, do you just sleep in? And no, I don't. I actually just shift my day where I wake up early and it's all focused on me, and then I focused on work. And so usually I tend to work pretty late, and I'm realizing that I need to shift my schedule so that I can, usually when I used to wake up and lead sadhana at 5, I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and then I realized those days were just way too long, and so I just did not want to do that, and I shifted all the sadhanas to 7 a.m. But anyways, I just wanted to hop on here because originally, I've been recording these Shakti Soul Session episodes on my phone. And so now I'm here, I'm recording it on my computer. I probably won't put, the music on the front and back end of this, but I just want to be here and I just want to talk to you and I just want to connect with you all. So it feels really good to be in this beautiful space. And for me, the topic and the focus of this episode is really just going to be about reclaiming my why. And I've been like leaving and dropping little bits and pieces of my why, but today during meditation, and tomorrow in the US we celebrate Thanksgiving. And so I was just really thinking about all this gratitude that I have. And I specifically wrote about it in my journal. And so I have this beautiful practice of just writing, I do different manifestation techniques. And I was writing specifically about the things that I'm truly, truly grateful for, and the people that I want to help, and how much I love the work that it is that I do. And embodying and really owning and claiming this identity of being a relationship coach. And that is an identity I was just so adverse to. And it's taking me such a long time to get into this space of truly owning it and being proud of it. And the reason why there was so much resistance towards it, and if you've been following my journey, you can see the evolutions of, the different niches that I decided to get into, and expressing myself in a way of how it is that I help other people, how it is that I mentor people, how it is that I coach other people. And as I've, said before, that a certain, series of just current experiences have just really kind of coalesced nicely, where I feel like I found the missing pieces to the puzzle of this beautiful path. And initially, it's kind of like when you're on that the heroine's journey, you get a call to something, and you don't take it the first time. You're like, no, 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 not for me, not for me. And then eventually what happens, you circumvent and you come back to that call, and you say yes. And that's when your true journey begins. And everyone has that in a moment in their life. And maybe they meet a mentor, maybe they meet, a relationship that really requires them to level up. Because it's easy to stay in the status quo. It's easy to stick with what you know. It's easy to deny what your true passion and calling is, because you know the amount of evolution and leveling up you're going to have to do. And I think for me, I just did not want, I remember distinctly in 2020, like, so we're almost going on 5 years now. It's crazy to think that COVID was 5 years ago. And it's crazy to think that I met my partner 5 years ago. But I just distinctly remember I was working with a coach at the time, and I was like, I kind of know this is who I'm supposed to help. I kind of know I'm supposed to help single, men and women. And I have this passion for helping women specifically around romantic relationships, because it's the experience that I kind of asked for as my soul encompassed this body. But I I just don't want to be about that. I don't. Like, even though I've had many initiations, baptism by fire, a lot of different experiences that allow me to talk about this and be a leader in this space because I've walked through it and I've done that work and I have healed. And that's like one of my biggest accomplishments is that I have healed my family wounds in order to call in a really healthy, loving, beautiful relationship. And even when I wasn't in partnership, even before I met my partner, I was still calling in people that are emotionally available. They just weren't a right fit. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with anybody, but it just wasn't a right fit at that particular moment. And so just because if you don't have an actual relationship or anything to show for it, it doesn't necessarily mean that the inner work for you isn't working. And so I want to really emphasize that because sometimes we think, well, if I get that thing, then I know it's working. Right. And so it's even like in business. Oh, if I get that job, then I know the work that my job search is working. Right. Or if I get that client to sign up, then I know my business is working. And sometimes it's easier to get that validation and have that show through to let us know, like, okay, it's kind of confirmation that what I'm doing is actually working. But sometimes we have to have faith. And it's those little micro steps, those little milestones along the way that lets you know, especially when it comes to dating, especially when it comes to romantic relationships, that your picker is different. And when you start to realize that your picker is different, you're no longer attracted to those emotionally unavailable people that cannot commit, that cannot meet you, that are often talking about themselves on in the relationship rather than asking you about yourself, right? We no longer feel like we have to prove, or we no longer have to get into that mindset of thinking like, oh, all men suck, right? Like there's a lot of movement around that and this revolution around like what does it mean to be a feminist? What does it mean to really be feminine and honor yourself? And I'm here to bridge that gap and say there are men that are healthy. There are men that want to commit. There are men that are doing the work. I have friends that are really doing the work, that are working on themselves, that are focused on wanting to be a beautiful partner, that want that relationship, and you're probably going to be like, okay, can you set up a dating app? Not my line of business. Maybe down the line, but who knows? Um, Maybe we'll be a matchmaker and we'll start vetting people, right, to come into the circle. Because I know a lot of really amazing women and I know a lot of really amazing men. But I just remember that it was really hard for me to step into that space, even though I had experience, knowing that I could help other people because I just did not want that to be my story. I didn't want to just focus only on relationships, even though I inherently knew that that was a specific assignment that I signed up for as I came into this lifetime. Like all my experiences, all roads just like lead to that for whatever reason. It's like it was I don't want to say it was like Sex in the City, um, but it was a form of it through different people and different relationships and different experiences of learning who I am because that was something where I realized I was unsure whether or not that I could hold a healthy relationship. And because I was afraid that I couldn't hold a healthy relationship, I didn't want to have children. And so that was the biggest step for me is that I didn't know that I could trust myself to actually keep a healthy relationship, to hold that container, to hold that magic, to hold that miracle. And so as a result of that, I just chose to deny myself the possibility of being a mother. I didn't think it was I wasn't going to be a good mother. It was I didn't believe in myself to pick the best father for my child. And so that's why I didn't want to bring a child in because I didn't want to subject them to any experiences that I had growing up, right? Of feeling shut down, of feeling small, feeling like I had to walk on eggshells, feeling like I couldn't be my full expressive self. And that really does something to you. When you feel like you can't take risks in being who you are, you don't take risk in your career. You don't take risks in the way you live. Like all of these things have a ripple effect of how you were brought up, especially, a ripple effect into how you show up in the workplace, how you show up for relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships, friend relationships. And sometimes even when I work with one-on-one clients, they talk about friendships and how sometimes they feel like their friends don't understand them because they feel afraid to truly share the things that really excite them, that they're passionate about, you know? And so it's so important to think that, we can truly use the past to inform our present, but we don't have to let it be the pattern and the cycle that we choose to continue. And my journey was really about learning to break that pattern and choose someone new, choose someone different, choose someone who uh, was in touch with their emotions, could hold space for emotions, could allow me to tell them things that I needed and not punish me for them, right? Or not shut me down or oppress me for them, but really feel totally emotionally, physically, mentally, and emotionally safe to truly be seen and valued for those different things. And that's something that I truly explored with different types of people. It was like this roller coaster of dating all of these unavailable people. There were a little bit toxic relationships and dynamics, hot and cold, because we were both, dealing with like, oh my God, we're getting too close. Okay, let's go away. And then it's just like, okay, I like you, but you don't like me because you're getting freaked out. And then you like me and I'm freaking out. Like it was just so much ricochet. And when you find yourself in the dynamic, it just means that both partners are unable to be ready for intimacy, that type of intimacy. And so you have to slowly allow yourself to expand in your capacity to share more, a little bit, right? And just expose yourself to those types of dynamics and relationships. And that's why the beautiful thing about coaching is that you get to do it in this container. And it's completely platonic because it can traverse into two different areas of your life, such as a romantic relationship where you feel like you don't have that back door. Like for me, I always felt like I needed to have the back door open, and have that fatalistic thinking of like, if we got in a fight, oh my gosh, we're breaking up. Like it's the end of the world. But what if you actually chose to stay in the relationship, right? Because it's so easy to leave. It's so easy to just swipe. It's so easy to like fall like into another dating experience and not truly be there. And so for me, it's about really allowing myself to understand, okay, I've had these experiences and I just, I don't want to get too personal because I'm still trying to make sense of like, the experiences that I just had recently. But it's really allowed me and showed me like, oh my God, like this is it. This is the reason why I am being called to do this work and I'm fully owning it and I'm claiming it. And, I love this beautiful journey that I've been on because initially when I first started, it was about inner child healing, inner child work. And it was beautiful and I loved it. And I've helped so many women with it. And I'm so grateful for all of my previous clients. And then it led me on the path of really understanding and devoting myself to the divine feminine. And so I really got in touch with my spirituality. I really got in touch with the feminine side of spirituality, working with different feminine archetypes, working with my relationship to my own womb, diving deeper into different practices, working with different goddesses, and, you know, working with my mystical side because I love that too. Like I love working with tarot. I love working with symbolism. I love just all of those different things, and I think you can just call it like that priestess side of me, where you're really working with transmuting and working with your shadows. And that's where I really fell in love with my dark feminine side. And it's like I didn't have names to those things, like those actual definitions or names or symbolism or like certain goddesses of Kali and Anna, um, and Isis. But through this devotional period of the last year of like really diving deep and studying and doing all of these different types of programs, it's just allowed me to really come to this beautiful space of neutrality, of being able to mix both of them. And so that's where I am today of like, oh, I actually needed that detour. I needed that detour of diving into that divine feminine realm because ultimately what I'm here to do is really, really anchor into helping women, really into anchoring and helping women and using those concepts and those elements of meeting our shadows, understanding that we're whole, and being on that journey of embodying love. And what does that mean? It means invoking our own inner mother, it means nurturing ourselves, and it means that transitional, beautiful, transformative period of moving from the maiden, which is your wounded self, especially when you come into dating. Maybe you have your father wounds come up, maybe you have your mother wounds come up, maybe you have your sister wounds come up. That's why I talk a lot about healing those family wounds and those dynamics so that you don't project them onto the partner that you're dating, or you don't project them onto someone new that you're dating, right? Because we can mix those red flags with our triggers. And so it's so important to understand, like, how can we meet ourselves whole? How can we have our own descent into our own beautiful cosmic void of really just being in that darkness and allowing that dirt to be the blackest of dirt, to be that fertile soil for us to truly rebirth into those women, those queens that we are. Right. And when we're in our queen archetype, when we're really embodying that queen archetype, it's not this raw, I was talking to my mentor the other day, and it was just like, we were talking about Shakti, that feminine, that life force, that creativity, and there can be, scary experiences of her, or it can be very soothing and beautiful and nurturing and coddling experiences of her. And those sides are inside of us. It's not bilateral. It's not like, there's one good side and one bad side. It's not this duality. Just knowing that it is all of that. But, there's this sense of when we're in our maiden, which can also be known as the page. The page is the archetype where it's unrefined. So it's kind of like you think about all the Marvel movies where the the new superheroes, they get their superpowers, but they don't know how to use them. They don't know how to use them. And so they have to grow up and they have to train and they have to be refined and da 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 da. And it reminds me when I first got sober, when, it's like sobriety allowed, or alcohol allowed me to be able to just express myself without any inhibitions, right? But then trying to do that sober and having those feelings and feeling them raw, not anesthetizing myself, it allowed me to all of a sudden just blurt everything out. And so it just became this rawness, this it's untamable force. And it wasn't hot. It was just like leaking this energy everywhere and vomiting like emotions everywhere. To now, after, I think it was like, it took me 5 years to really hone in and understand and really feel aligned. And so there's just like this beautiful unfolding of when you truly find your own voice and you're truly starting to recognize your own worth, that you become unleashed, right? Your soul is unleashed, but we also want to be able to anchor that and feel grounded into the things that we want. And so when you think about even when you're fighting with someone or you have a disagreement with someone, they listen to you when you are emotionally balanced. They don't listen to you when you're flying off the handle. No. They listen to you if you're centered. They think that you're calmer, right? And there's certain things you can do, right? There's certain things you can say like, oh, okay, maybe I appear a little centered right now, but inside my brain and my mind and my body, my heart's racing, like there's certain things you can do, but it's just that feeling of truly being grounded into your body. And so that's the beautiful thing about moving from your maiden to your mother, is that, there can be all of this talk about, oh, being in your feminine, da 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 da, and calling in your quote unquote king. But you will never, like, no matter how many times you can try and like be receptive in your feminine, doing these like ecstatic dances or whatever it is, or like feminine embodiment practices, that will not work unless, no, that will not work if you keep choosing from your wounded inner maiden. You can do all the feminine embodiment practices you want. You can say you want to be receptive. You can let the man take the lead. You can do all this shit. But if you are still choosing from your wounded maiden, your wounded inner child, that shit's not going to work. Like, this is a step that you need to do first in order to really anchor you and usher you. Because then your inner child's going to be picking the man, your inner teenager is going to be picking man, like the person in your early 20s is going to be picking the man. Like, no, you want to actually pick and have that energy of really being that queen before you even get into those practices. And so that's the realization that I've actually come to, is that this is the deep emotional inner work that is necessary for midwifing you into becoming that mother. Because ultimately, the people that I help, they want to become moms, they want children, they want that. And they're done with the toxic relationships. They're done with living for other people. They're done with keeping quiet. They're done with being the dutiful daughter. They're done with trying to do everything right and perfect. And they're done walking on eggshells. And they're done trying to people please others, because they're starting to realize that they've put themselves last. They're starting to realize that those behaviors that they allowed when they were younger because they were trying to survive in like family dysfunction just doesn't work anymore when it comes to calling in relationships, because they're still attracted to the emotionally unavailable fathers that they've had. And this is where we get to change the story. This is where we get to rewrite that story. And that is why I like come full circle of like, oh my God, fuck yes, like this is it. Like this is it. This is what I want to claim. This is my story. This is a story that I love to tell. This is a story that I can go on and on and on about. Just ask me any questions. I have a lot of people, even my friends, they will constantly DM me. They're like, I got into this little tiff with my partner, or I'm dating someone. It's just like, oh my gosh, okay. Like I need to share this. I need to share it. And I love being able to bridge all these beautiful practices and experiences together to create this beautiful custom journey and experience through one-on-one coaching. We work specifically with you. Although it fits, the ideas and the framework of truly meeting yourself and loving yourself and being ready to put that old way of being and truly changing so that you can actually attract those beautiful, healthy relationships that you want. But in order to attract someone emotionally available, you have to be available yourself. And so that is why we work on the family wounds. That's why we work on the emotional wounds. That's why we work on your ability to trust yourself. That's why we work on your ability to intuit, to have that intuition, to know that you can make the right choices, to not be attracted to a dynamic that was familiar to you just because you knew it when you were a little girl. It is possible to change. It is possible to level up. It is possible to attract someone. You don't have to settle and lower your standards just so you can have someone. And I clearly remember, it was so funny, when I was dating my partner for the first time. This was like 5 years ago. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, I didn't know that I could get someone as like who I was so attracted to, where the chemistry was amazing, where I felt I was really seen, where I was really heard, where I was valued, where, even now, like, I don't have to scold him into apologizing to me or making him see my view. Like, he will just come around. And that's the beauty when someone does the inner work. It's not like me being this magic sorceress and, he just comes to me and does. No, it's because the other person does the inner work, because I chose someone who is rational and also is working on themselves, right? And so write that down as your ideal. Like, okay, I want someone that's also working on themselves, because obviously, if you're listening to this podcast episode, if you're interested in working with me and you want to dive in deeper and you want to do these somatic practices and you want to understand through this divine feminine lens of how you truly can call in a relationship by invoking your inner mother and healing your emotional and family wounds, then you are doing the work on yourself. You right now are doing the work on yourself. This information is getting into your brain and you're just like, oh, okay. You're exploring. It's this beautiful exploration of that. And so this is just, me expressing this new direction in my business, this new direction of like truly reclamation of like this beautiful thing that lights me up. Because when I realize it at the end of the day, and this is why I love the goddess Isis so much. Before I used to think it was truly just about sexual magic. That was it. And when I've come to understand that story and I've come to like sit with it, I realize ultimately it's a goddess who at the heart of what she does is has this family value that she upholds, right? And she chose a partner who unfortunately died. Um, and so what she does is she performs this magic where she gets to bring a son into this earth so that we can have that person be the leader rather than the corrupted brother. And so, what I really took away from that was wow, this person wants to bring a new paradigm, a new example of leadership through healthy models, through love. And that is what I like. And it wasn't until I learned to mother myself that I began to be open to the types of relationships that I wanted. Because when I learned to mother myself, when I learned to understand what it meant to really invoke that within myself and for me, then that's when I realized, oh, okay, I can open myself up to a relationship now because I know how to hold myself while I can be in relationship. The other person doesn't have to do it for me. I can teach them how to do it. And that's the beautiful part is that when you do this inner work, ultimately at the end of the day, it's a vernacular, it's language for them to understand you. So when you feel triggered, you know where it comes from and you can explain to them what it is. And you understand, like, oof, I'm not being triggered by you. I'm just being triggered by the thing that you're doing because it's reminding me of something from my past. And so that's why we do this beautiful work, is because we have this beautiful language. And when I was able to truly understand what it is to invoke my own inner mother, then that's when I really called in my partner and all the other amazing people that were before him, because I learned so much about myself and I got to really, you know, become a better woman as a result of that. And then being in that relationship taught me more things about what does it mean to expand my heart even more, and then really being open to what is it like to be a mother. And I haven't, it's only, I want to say like maybe 2, 3 years. Yeah, that I've really opened to the idea of like physically having a baby. And so it's just really beautiful to see the evolution of wanting to be that and getting myself ready and working with my womb and seeing all those different parts of myself that allows me to transition continually from the maiden to the mother and wanting a child to bring it into this earth and making sure that I chose the right partner. Because the reason why I was able to say yes was because I didn't have any doubt that my partner would be a beautiful father. And so if you are questioning whether or not you want to bring a child in, aside from like finances or whatever, but the emotional stuff, and this is always a question that I love asking clients is when they're dating is, would you be okay with bringing a child into the dynamic that you have now? And if the answer is no, then you know your answer, especially if you want to become a mother. And I know sometimes women will say like, oh, well, they don't want kids. I don't want kids. But what is that you want? If you have that desire in your heart, then God's going to fulfill it. Why wouldn't you want it fulfilled? Why are you denying yourself of that if you want it? Just because you want to keep a love? And you have to decide for yourself, what's non-negotiable for you. And I know for me, that is a non-negotiable. I want to have children, and I can full-heartedly say, yes, I do want that. And so, what does it take to prepare me for that mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, like all of those things? And I came up a lot against those notions, especially when I was doing my Kundalini training. Whew, I would cry all the time, had me on tape crying in the background, doing Kriyas crying. But that's another initiation in itself. And I get little glimpses here and there. You hear about it when I babysit my nephews. Um, but it's something that I'm excited to embark on this next chapter with, um, with my current partner, because it's just this beautiful thing where I no longer feel afraid because I've trusted myself that I've made the right decision. And so, if you want to dive deeper into this, if you truly believe in your heart that you just want to rewrite your old stories, that you want to heal from your family wounds, that you want to truly own your own experiences and create a new family blueprint that's healthy and loving so you can bring beautiful children into this world so they can become emotionally available and they get involved in different relationships. This is the work that we do. This is the work that we do to raise that collective consciousness and bring that higher awareness down into the earth and ground it. This is the work that we do to change generational patterns. And it is so important that you do this work. It's more important, I think, than creating revenue for a company, right? Like, you bring yourself everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, your interactions with your bosses, your interactions with your colleagues, your interactions with like other clients, like, this is the work that we need to do, and we are being called to do it. So, will you answer that bold call? And if the answer is yes, love to hop on a call with you. And let's book a one on one discovery call so we can see if we are a beautiful fit. I'd love to help you. Anyways, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I will probably do a short one. I won't do a video recording, but just wanted to hop in here, just say thank you to all of you for listening, for being part of this community. Right now I'm doing these EFT sessions for the holiday season. It's one-on-one. It's pay what you can, 1 hour with me to really just bust through any blocks. You can use it for anything, especially right now in relationships and family. As you start to mingle with them, as you start to see them, maybe you get triggered by certain questions. Maybe you see an ex, maybe you're like, oh my God, I'm not with anybody. All the things that run in our head. But I'd love to help you. So book a one-on-one discovery call for one-on-one coaching, or book a one-on-one pay what you can EFT session with me. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Have a beautiful night. Sat Nam.